Good morning, ARE 496 students. As promised, I am here today to give you some consolidated feedback on your scope and sequence assignment. I want to just start off by saying that in general, as a class, you did extremely well. I think the average grade on this project is like a 92%, so very high average. I will say overall strengths that I saw were in the sequencing from simple to complex, in the including contemporary artists, and in many cases, the design and sequencing of the formative assessments. Things were a little bit more variable in terms of the student learning objectives. In some cases, they were a little bit more like summaries than objectives. And then also, in some cases, maybe not going beyond a basic approach to a project. So totally fine, but a basic still life without an additional kind of layer or hook for relevance or student engagement. So as you're designing your projects and your units, when you do move out into schools, really be thinking about how you can personalize those projects to hook the specific students in this generation that you're working with. Okay, I wanted to go ahead and move through and just touch on some highlights from everybody's projects. So just starting with Amanda, use of humor in titling projects. This is just delightful. So all bottled up, what's in the fridge, a couple examples of that through line that creates a sense of this scope and sequence as like a really well thought out packaged experience for students. Annika, I was really taken with this tile silhouette project as a collaborative project. Sometimes if you, especially with your intro level courses, collaborative projects can be a little dicey to have them actually look good in execution. And the design of this project creates a lot of entry points and places for success with the individual components being very easily achievable by a wide range of students. Thomas, I love this connection of the Suck Monster project to bring in ideas of the Great Depression, as well as contemporary concerns around resourcefulness and reuse, sustainability, just a really delightful project. Reggie, need I say more? Just the personalization and the playfulness and joyfulness that is visible on this cover page, but also throughout the design of the projects. Kai, I love the personalized design here. So if this didn't have your name on it, I probably still know it was yours. And then also including taking the class to a trip to the Mesa Art Center. So bringing in community connection and getting students out into art spaces in the environment is just such a powerful thing to include in your curriculum. Melanie, I thought this was again, similar to Annika's collaborative project, this ceramic weaving tiles project, a really great way of bringing in doing mixed media as well as a collaborative project that lots of students could be successful with. Next up, Cruz, the overall consistency of depth and expectations, really setting a high bar for what students are achieving. But again, the kind of like playfulness embedded in the types of projects that are going to hook students and keep them excited. Also, your specificity of your formative assessments were very strong. Devin, perhaps no surprise, I know this is a passion of yours, but great depth of content with historical cultural relevance. That's really a part of your scope and sequence that's shining. Alicia, I love the scaffolding of building on a 2D project in one unit to the 3D project in the next in a way that really gets students to move. One of our indicators is thinking and problem solving. So moving from those simpler ways of thinking into the more complex ones and using 2D to 3D as a way of scaffolding that experience for students. Trinity, really great articulation of skills development across the whole scope and sequence so that, as an outsider, I can really get a sense for, at the end of this class, what are the kinds of skills that students are going to be able to have. Ellie, a really creative and specific project. So Sonia Dolani, great artist, but having that be combined with an outfit design, something that would be very interesting for adolescents to do. And then painting with everyday materials, bringing in some chance and unexpected found objects and materials. And this is also very popular right now, creating natural dyes, creating handmade inks, really great contemporary choice. Evelyn, overall design and summative informative assessments that are described, just a very easily readable and well-organized scope and sequence. Raina, the depth of learning, ambition, and I really wanted to call out Raina's research slide here. So this is not just like, one link to the Museum of Modern Art. This is really thoughtful combination of deep research. For a baby teacher, some teachers might feel overwhelmed by this and others would feel incredibly relieved to have this much information and support. Also, just the use of all of the images to help communicate the historical and cultural connections in an efficient way in the design. Christian, really deep engagement with contemporary art practices and trends. Love this use of Jen Matthews and talking about minimalism and maximalism we've talked before about how compare and contrast is a great way to scaffold student learning. It's something that they grasp pretty quickly. And I think minimalism and maximalism is a great place to bring that into the classroom. Riley, really gorgeous design and tight content, rich and impactful use of historical and cultural connections. So a really thoughtful combination of artists within each unit. Faith, your projects are just so creative and unexpected. So for a collaborative project, having that be a tablecloth. And that then like their finished projects can go on this tablecloth. And then this last one, home decoration. So students curating projects made from 5 media to tell a story about their imagined characters all around the theme of home. Just a really like layered design of projects that are interconnected over the course of the semester, really building on each one towards a summative experience. Rory, just using ceramics as like, this is what we're going to do. It's all ceramics, but with that really impactful use of technology tools for the creative process. So using mood boards and sketching is a way for students to visualize their creative process and communicate that to you. Also love that you have texture test tiles and how to sketch plan as its own unit, a really foregrounding process. I can see the studio habits of mind having a really central place in this curriculum. Francesca, scaffolded in specific formative assessments that match the complexity of the project. So this idea of this class of ceramic busts, a very ambitious project, that at the end there would be a photograph of all of the busts of the students next to a photograph of the actual students. Love that. Samantha, use of simple functions in a complex program to orient students to a new technology. So leaning into Photoshop, which is such a great digital tool, but can be a little bit less user-friendly than some other digital tools, but is a really essential foundation for a lot of graphic design work, and having that be paired with an accessible program. Julia, your alignment between the scaffolded skills development and then projects of increasing complexity over the course of the semester, very strong. Also really articulating what your expectations are for skills development within that digital technology. Maddie, I love this reimagining of a diorama as a concert stage and adding in this mix of jam session and critique. What a delightful experience for students. What a great way to bring in multi forms of art, as well as connect up like critique, which can be kind of intense, with a jam session that's really about like getting better and learning something new and connecting to each other through performance. I love the idea of that as an overlay for critique. Val, I love this combination of abstraction with a practical graphic design project through a flag. So thinking about, creating art for an audience, a commercial art project, but then using that as a way to experiment with abstraction, which can feel kind of abstract, not connected to practical projects. Love that combination. Carter, projects that build classroom community over time and that have real depth and variety of artists spread into support each unit. So there's this school life photojournalism project that starts things off, and then at the end of the semester is wrapped back around to create a project for the whole class to enjoy. Rose, overall design of this Matthew Barney restricted drawing project. I love this. It's very experiential in the same way that Maddie's jam session is. So you're creating different conditions and experiences for making art by actually altering like what you're allowing the body to do, whether that's like, tying your arms around your waist and then trying to draw, or trying to draw with your foot. Something that's really shaking up this idea of control in drawing. Sydney, you really shine here with your leveled and varied formative assessments that go beyond the basic. Anaid, this final project that you have in here is so complex and ambitious. And I love that you've got it broken down into part A, part B, part C, along with specific scaffolded formative assessments and chosen artists that are brought in. And overall clarity and depth in writing. This was another one where I could just really see how this would live and breathe in a classroom. Jillian, our last but not least, oh my gosh, so many high engagement projects with tons of resources to get students excited. Love this Riso zine that's got tons of great Riso studios that are all around the US, all around the world, as well as some contemporary Riso artists that some students are just going to take this and run. I love it as a combination, like alongside digital design project. So you're seeing the like analog processes next to the digital processes. Okay, so that gets us through all 27 of you. Each of your scope and sequences had something that was really, that really stood out about it. But on top of that, there were a handful of scope and sequences that were really above and beyond. And they included all of these elements. So genuine creativity, complexity, and specificity in project design, significant thought in sequencing and creating connections between units, intention and complexity in choice and number of artists and cultures to include. Really want to emphasize this. It's so important to go beyond the basics. Nuanced projects with personal relevance to students' lives, varied and relevant formative assessments, and then finally, clear, error-free, and well-designed, easy to read, follow, and imagine teaching from. So there were a handful of projects that just did all of these things. Again, really going above and beyond, that were superstars. And those are Kai, snaps for Kai. Thomas, snaps for Thomas. Devin, snaps. Ellie, snaps. Look at that gorgeous formatting. Raina, snaps. Look at all those elements and principles and skills development. Rory, love it, snaps. Anaid, so good. And finally, Jillian. Just, as I said, the average score on this was an A on this project. But for those of you that are really leaning in and thinking about each project as not only curriculum, but an opportunity to be creative, to create a work product that is reflective of your individual identity as a teacher, as well as the hopes and dreams that you have for your students. Just really great work overall. And it was a delight to read through these projects. If any of you have questions or concerns about your grade, or you would like to conference, I'd be happy to meet with you in the coming week. Otherwise, I'm gonna head out and go to a faculty meeting, and I'll see y'all in class on Tuesday.